and they try to disable the slideshow. Okay, so we're back on. So about Vampire Diaries. Okay, series. You look and you're talking about Bonnie, which was rich. Jeremy, I think Jeremy, he was human, but he was caffeinated, had about the anchors and everything. Okay, now we're going to go to which episode it was. Oh shit, on Vampire Diaries. So the episode that I'm referring to is Bonnie finds a cure for vampirism in the episode Down the Rabbit Hole, season 4, episode 14, when she and Jeremy located with Silas on a remote island. A remote island. Well, Oak Island was considered a remote island, and you're looking for treasure, but it's like there's something that's trying to stop it from being found. True, though, it was difficult to retrieve. What's happening on Oak Island? We're looking for treasure, but everything is difficult to find. Yep, yep. Recibo de no está. Gesù pure te dai solo che hai sentito coreana di a guy on Facebook. I commented on the thing where everybody was singing about the Curse of Oak Island that the treasure was real. I had it. I commented and I put about my ancestors and I put my picture of the bag and stuff. The guy told me that it was bullshit and laughed at me. Yeah, really. So let's keep reading. So it was season 4, episode 14. She ultimately helps Erlic's ghost get the cure from Silas, fossilized body, so he can give it to Damien for Elaine, who had wanted to be human again. Okay, so a ghost. Who? Okay, if you look, who was the ghost? Who do I keep referring to? You know, they're referring to Oak Island, but people won't know how that's freaking horseshit. No, actually, it's not horseshit. You know, the elixir of life mortality. You know, that's what they're talking about. You know, let's refer to say the blood of the and brain. You know, Jesus is the blood of Well, was my son before? Was it actually Jesus? And was it not possible that it was really likely that she was pregnant and that was the blood of the the people, they encourage abortion or they encourage miscarriages. They are using it for your vaccines. I looked into that and I actually did an episode on a video on that. But no, you won't take that. Deuteronomy 28:53. We'll go back to that. The siege and terrible distress of the enemy's attack will be the servant that eat the flesh of the Son of whom which okay, it says on here, because of the suffering of the enemy will inflict on you during the surge when you eat the fruit of the womb. Okay, so that one was taken from a different Bible because the fruit of the womb, okay, the fruit of the womb, that's children come out of the womb. So the eating the fruit of mother, because that's why I said, like in 2020, when I had experience after I was free tearing apart and like ripping me apart and everything like that. When I moved to my ex-husband's place, it felt like something was trying to feed at my body, like all about my legs and going like this because it felt like fucking animals. But people say, well, that was a psychosis. No, the psychosis are the ones who actually wrote and interpreted this Bible because it was not the words of Christ. That was the words. Is this the words of Christ or is it the words of that's going to cause a lot of conflict, especially towards me because I said that. Who knows? Muhammad, it could have been father and son. It could have been because I said that Peter was actually the father of Jesus, but with Peter because of the two Peters. I'm allowed to question this. And if you refuse me to question this, I have to ask you why. The remote island, the island you're referring to. you know, a few more islands that I know. Apparently, Donald Trump knows someone on Savers Island, but if you think of it this way, Donald Trump was Donald McGinnis, was P. Diddy stealing the ball because, oh, stealing the ball was said to have owned Sam's Island, which was originally Hook Island, and who lived on Hook Lane? Epstein, which I believe to be Anthony Vaughn. But was he the young Anthony Vaughn or was he the old Anthony Vaughn that was part of my great granddaddy's will? You know, our families ran for their lives because of our religion. Am I really fucked in the head? Or are you possibly living in the denial that you actually think that this stuff is not real or sensitive? Is this what that man was speaking, what John the Baptist was actually speaking about? You know, go watch the Twilight Saga. You say that's not real. Are you sure about that? Here's a breakdown of the events. The quest for the cure. Bonnie and Jeremy travel with other characters to find the cure. Two, locating the cure. They discover the cure is buried with the first immortal, Silas. No! Oh! Whoa! Holy flipper! The only type of people that cross the truth or try to convince other people that people are crazy are the ones who know the fucking truth. Puriste carísimo, puriste mare. Eres tu puriste right there. I just had this sensation of my great granddad wants to take us because it was a reverend who was in his will and he was talking to me. Retrieving the cure. The cure is fossilized in Silas's hands. And to get it, they need to feed Silas blood to awaken him. See, I told people many times I went over to the farm market and just like this last year. And that this year too, but last year, it was so fucked up. I walked in that prison. Didn't know it was a prison until after I went in it. And I was invited to go to the back where when you go in the prison, you have a bigger room here when I went in, I seen that there was a guard, the warden over here in the corner. But in this very back room, it was pitch black. And I went and it was kind of there. And I just had a really feeling. And then going on a tour of the times that my seventh great granddad lived. And that's where they said about it being a prison. And I went, oh shit. And I kind of joked around and I said to myself, I said, no wonder I reacted the way I did in there. But at that time, I didn't know that it was my seventh great granddad. Because I hadn't really gone down any of this rabbit hole. And then when you get out here, when you come out at the time, I told my we went back. And he went in, his head was like this. Like he was someone who was meant and supposed to bring you to this person, the ghost. And when I went to walk up, it was my fucking scary thing. It just fucking lunged at me like, ah! Like it was gonna fucking eat me. But see, there was also a Catherine in the series, okay? Catherine, he was the anchor, and Silas and her were lovers at one point. Silas was what he was the vampire. Catherine was the doppelganger to Elena, and Silas was the doppelganger to Stefan. He was the vampire. But see, it was Damon, the brother of Stefan, who gave his blood to Elena. So when it lunged, I think I just freaked out and took it out. I get my brother to see this thing. And it was keeps shaking his head. And I kept breathing. And I told him, okay. I said, you take my message forward. Because I could thank him. He was the one in charge of everything. People say it's a psychosis. No, it's called a reminder. Now, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, just in a bunch of different languages, it was like one massive fucking argument going on. Just got like the two spirits just going at each other. And as I started more, it was like it's like calming down. It was like we backed off, and it's like they went to the south. Just talking with each other. And like the breeze started getting really. So now whether it's said that not my seventh grade grand, but my seventh grade granddaddy's first wife, she died, they said, just as the ship was coming to the getting to the Greenland, or not long thereafter. Like when I sit back each time, I kind of look at this. Like I know that my family thinks like I do, but I would really like for you to fucking explain this. Wait, you can't because you will go down that rabbit hole because it's that part of once you are seen, once they see you, you are seen, you become a problem. So I left there and I went to the museum. And my ex-husband, he was there with me, he was walking with me because I know he's like what happened. And certain things they kind of stop at it and would draw me to it. So it was telling me the story throughout because one was a Bible. And then I got going like there's the just walk by this shop and just happened to look sideways. And has anybody ever seen the movie Hannibal Lecter? Okay, where Hannibal Lecter has the face mask on. This was identical. So yesterday I went to different museums and I was taking photographs and I was taking showing me one second here. Like I was looking for the odd things out. Okay. See, I was in an, just 1 second, just waiting for the. See, I'll take it back to like say Adam and Eve, and you have Lucifer, Sophia, but you also say you have Lucifer and Lilith, you have Adam and his Eve, Sophia, and Lilith, and then Adam and Lucifer. Okay, because it says in some stuff. Okay, okay. So was it like I said, say Adam and Lucifer? Okay. So Adam was the husband of Eve, and you say that Lilith was the husband of the wife of Adam. You say about Lucifer, but then you say about because see, I take things as being signs. Okay, so I just had a picture here because there's been a lot of question with regards to. I know it just got off. Okay, a lot of question with regards to Jeffrey Epstein's death. Okay? And I'll get to the collar because it was like a really dark collar that had spikes coming out of it, so that would have been the collar for the dog. Okay? And I've seen the collar that they would have had on my great grandmother. Okay? Now I went to this museum and I walked in, was walking towards the back, and I just happened to look, and it was like somebody picked up like this or something, and it drew my attention to it because I know it was showing, and it was the door. Door. Here's the collar I'm talking about. That was in the museum, and I found it in a really odd place because it didn't match the rest of the stuff it was in. But now I'm seeing certain coins. So I know I'm not to do that. There's a gentleman in there who's talking to me. Oh, that's another. This was the door into the room. I looked on the other side of the door. There's a secret. So you couldn't get out to the inside. You had to have the combination. Much like your prison cell, right? See, I don't, if I get a blow, I don't go in until I speak with that entity. Because it had a really heavy, and I could feel the, like, so I was standing there and I was talking, and then all of a sudden, I just, like, it was like, there was a little step there, and I stepped up and I stood at the door like that, and I went like that. And it was just like, I started speaking with this guy, and I started looking at the different things. Look, it just found a place. And it started showing me. So, I stood in that doorway for, I don't know how long, talking with the spirit. And this here was on the front of the doorway. Okay, that is, to me, that's the significance of an evil presence or what have you, something to keep something in somewhere, like a guard. And I took this picture here, okay, because there's two different things that were being told. Because these were like the nooses. So these are the specific knots for noose, right? This is a pitchfork, much like a pitchfork, but it's also a symbol. And I don't know how close the symbol is to that, but maybe because to me it represents like it's more, I just heard yes, okay, because it's not ancestors, really ancestors who lived with us. Generations of or holy. And the knot, to me, those represents part of the noose. You're trying and stand here and out. And I'm getting the story of the ghost or the spirit entity. Getting the story of being shown. Because you think of what's happening right now. Okay, so now we're going to go to the next one. Okay, that's just another picture of the humans. Okay, the knots. Knot, and this was a welcome sign, welcome. And it's like it was telling me, okay, welcome here. It's good to have you here. I'm glad you came. But it was dark in there. I could feel it. Like there was a lot of and now if you look here, okay, we have two lizards. Okay. We have a new big wolf with a noose and stick. Okay. There's a few different indications. Okay, so we go next. And we have someone on praying gantry. This represented probably my 7th grade granddaddy. But, maybe someone in the cell was praying to God. So there's the rope there for us. And I started having a vision of someone taking a rope and wrapping it around someone's neck and hiking them up and hanging them. And see, I went again. I took another picture because, I was looking at it. And it's a few different other things. Okay. J.D. Irving calendar thing, that reminds me of the oil and the cutting down of the trees for building. Okay. And then I was being shown parts of what different areas would look like the barn, and trees, and we're going to go to the next. If you look down here in the corner, that image, around the right chair, right? I was about to go like that, okay, because it stood out very strangely because it was one of those things in front of it out there. And is this indicating what was in there? Okay. So what we perceive to be okay. See, it's like you're immediately someone who's being guided to find out the truth of stories of whether somebody else is thinking, somebody else is charged with something that they need to do. But you're sentenced for it. Because when I was looking in this here, because when you look on Sam's Island, there's no houses. So if Donald Trump knows someone on Sam's Island, but there's no houses on there. And I actually dug in that too to find out who currently owns the land. But I refuse to tell. I refuse to tell. You know, I refuse to tell. I did. I said because it was actually one of the guys from the Oak Island Tour that was the one that told me that Donald Trump had been on Sam's Island, which, like I said, Sam McGraw was friends with Billy McGinnis, who Sam McGraw resembles an awful lot of P. Diddy that he was killed. And Sam's Island, the Garland, which you say Epstein had an island, and it where he lived on the plane or whatever. I'm taking and I'm bringing, like, I'm showing you, but you're refusing to see it because you were taught differently. It's today, the 20th, and in 2 days, it's truth and reconciliation. In all actuality, you and I, we don't have, like, we're passed down what is perceived to be the truth, but you don't really know the truth, do you? Like I said, I'm not all that, but I'm not here for the this is the 18 development. The parent is with them. It's called responsibility, knowing what you're exposed to. Because this, they don't want you to, because it might tell you the true story if you question it, because you'll start searching, start learning your own genealogy, and realizing that, hey, you may think they're not family because they're fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth cousin from you. If it weren't for those family members, you fucking all wouldn't be here today. So to say that you're not family and you don't care what you know, well, then you know, hey, instead of opening your fucking mouth and saying what's going on in the world, why don't you figure it out? Because that's where you have to look in your own life. Like I said, I'm not all conventional, but I'm not going to sugarcoat things or sweet talk them. I'm going to say, um, 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 I'm going to correct my words so that I don't offend certain people. I get it, like certain things. Yes, I get offended. It's because it's the way you speak to it. It's how you convey something. You can't say for sure that this is what happened because you're only being you're only going by what you've been told over lifetimes, which has been manipulated more than 30,000 times along just this book. But it's saying that what you're looking at is much like the Twilight Saga, much like the Vampire Diaries, much like Once Upon a Time, much like The Matrix, much like, the stuff that you say is fucking fiction. Star Wars and Star Trek and stuff like that. That was fiction until you started looking at it, right? That's them telling you ahead of time of what's transpiring. But now, these ones are a little more civilized, but they're injecting. It's like certain people, it's like they're dead to anything. That's what they're talking about. Not caring. And if you starved, you would fucking eat your neighbor if you were starving. That's the part that's saying. It will starve you to watch you do it. You know, did I tell you this stuff in the book that this is the stuff to pay attention to? Father chose the flesh. He chose to eat his own children. And then you preach about forgiveness. It's not the people who need forgiveness. Or it's, how do I put that? It's the father who needs forgiving. That's, certain things within a family. Only certain, it's like only certain people get to say what the marriage was because they're the ones who survived and everybody else was said to be crazy because of their beliefs, spiritual beliefs. Some don't even feel like they don't even have any. What you do? Because those people say it's could be one or the other reason. So you really like you just that just means you are not picking sides. Maybe I word it differently. Just okay. Okay. Look what's in their system. okay, children, okay, and it's prophesied of false prophets and false prophets, and then something tries to, that's the system they can have, okay, but if we say not everything is as it seems, they can, okay, I just explained to you with regards to the ancient and the vampire, and they were doppelgangers. They had doppelgangers. And Stefan and Elena, they were the doppelgangers. It's the two, it's seeing both worlds exist as like simultaneous. It's like, it's, okay, it's much like the sky people are the vampires and the werewolves are the animals of the land. Okay, the sky, the sun, and the moon as the wolf represents the moon. And vampires, they said that they can't be over the sun unless they have a special article. Usually it shows that they have a ring. The sky people, you say, come with revenge, and the ground people come with confidence. The sky people are more, the sky people are the human race, and the werewolves are the animals of the land. They are the people representing the light, like the light. And that was the interbreeding. And that's where when you see the hieroglyphics, that's what they're doing. They interbred with the animals, much of what we call bestiality. But it wasn't that they were having sex with the animals as they were taking the DNA and splicing it like they're supposed to today. But they created the viruses too, which created an insanity. That is what created the because it had that, it was like part of the baby, and then much like a sexual transmitted disease transmitted, and they said that it first came from monkeys. So replication, the representation of the original comic. So you're saying that human was sexual transmitted, and the animals were the rabies. You know, the syphilis and rabies. And maybe if you look the both up, you'd find out that they're very much the same. So, you know, three crows to speak. And one of the boys I hate to do See, people look at me like I'm crazy, but people go on here and talk about the Bible and what this and that, and they'll fight over religion. And it's like, why fight over the religion? Why not just stick with the fucking truth and story of it all? I mean, put it together. Because you're just telling one side of it, each different book.
Whose timeline said what?
When I was at that museum, it was great to talk about it. It was great because they wanted to hear me. I was explaining things that was fascinating. It's a different perspective. You know, you're always going for what, right? You know, once you see this with a different outlook, it's not about getting freaked out by it. It's about just, you know, simple, you know, Project Movie. So it's like, who's going to find it first? Who's going? Because one's for power and money, and the other wants to be good. Watch the video. God, people will beat the shit out of each other over immigration. It was they it's like the virus. What type of father treats you children? Father items. With brothers. Right. That's the part where they take to the grave, even if it's them keeping the fighting going. That's what you're looking at. It's like, is the father dying with just a little because that kind of hospital. Yeah, but would yeah, go ahead to the way. Yeah, don't you think that was pretty fucked up? Seriously. Luckily, I don't care what you think because I'm not doing it for you. Doing it because the spirits need to tell their story. Really, please excuse me if when you have a pain in your toe or crick in your back, but I don't sympathize right now because I've seen the horrific things that they do. This was also or not from her. Well, those were the ones who speak. What street. Did a quick video earlier. A lot of clips. It's easier. As I've said before, and I'm going to call it 10 minutes. Because I'm pretty sure that's what was going on now. Because that's what this little boy was showing me. Like they were showing, I was being shown different parts. And there's always in the room where the kids room, there's always this boy, like they have this boy doll stand. And the boy's there, it's attached to the doll. And the boy hides a lot in the attic. Because when I went over to the stairwell, because when we're in this room, they have like the irons and the electrical and that's what happens. It goes down into the kitchen. They were there, it's just a room, I drove over to the stairs. And the stairs kind of they go up like this and they angle and then up and there's a window there. And I was seeing that kind of thing. I was not using it at first. But I go in and I ask first if I can go through. And when I went up to the stairwell, it was kind of like this, but I wouldn't take a looking down to see what was up there because I could feel an entity right there. Like it was on the other side of the wall. We were kind of like this looking at it. And I was talking, and it was a boy because I had seen pictures. It was weird because I had seen pictures of this boy, and I seen a cradle where it looked like it was a deceased baby. And I was being told from this boy that we're beating them and choking them. The boy was one of the ones having sex with maidens to produce the babies, and the man would beat him because the wife couldn't carry children and she had a set of twins, but they died at a young age. Well, one of them died, and she was the first one that they used to produce babies. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh my god! Oh god! Holy shit! Oh, oh crap! Jesus! What is this here, man? Oh shit! I have your stuff on my glasses. And I was getting that. It must have been a little blonde girl, around about 74. She, I'm thinking she would be in, she would have been in the car. Yeah, her, their siblings there. Those excuse me, confirmation. going to start with this picture. Okay? See that? It's a wedding dress. And then the corset. Because it looks like it all went together. Okay? And you had the umbrella and the little fancy purse, and then the what you would perceive to be the purse. Much like and then okay, that's the way I would look. Okay? See, lovely babies. Right over here. Okay, the baby, the resemblance of the girl, baby, and the baby looks good. Okay? And then you have a wedding dress, and then the umbrella and the purse and the nose. But up here, right up here, there's another dress, a white dress. Right here. Which was an odd thing out. Was that because it doesn't look like it was critical to me. And didn't I say about like the daughter being the first? And then I found this strange. Okay, this was here. Here's the painting. There's the painting. And I happened to look over at the painting. And I know it's a stain, okay? But if you look at the way the stain is, okay? So if you look here, it looks like the stain is up here as if the shot head. And it come out and sprayed onto the other one there. Because this here picture is the crowning of one of the kings and Queen Alexandria. And I think that's the name of the house and trust me. That's me. I mean, that's the reason this. Yeah, now, I think that was in the time of Queen Victoria. And then I read a Bible and it kept saying it was 4,000. I think it was talking about land, maybe. I think it's something for the children, okay? And it's 4,000. And it was multiplied by 12. And then I turned the page, and it was just something, it was just the way, if you're guided and you feel a strong pull, go there because you're being pulled there for a specific reason. Okay? You ignore that. Ignore it. You think, oh, it's the devil, or maybe it's what happened. Okay? Maybe something that you will see as good, maybe something that you see or experience as not so good, but it's speaking of that experience. Because that's something that is showing, like I said, through all of what you perceive happening now, because if you look status quo, if you look at the sun activity back then, and you look at the sun activity now, what are the differences? Because you may not think that it signifies what it actually does, because that will explain what the symptoms of your body experience. It's like people say about radiation. Okay? What does radiation do to the body? Okay. Oh, okay. I was just quickly looking at something because what you say about like radiation, right? I guess it would be radiation exposure for how long, right? Without somebody using it to go for that. What is a normal radiation? And what are the symptoms of overexposure? Plasma from the sun. It hits the earth and that it affects the magnetic field, the energy field. Yeah, because that's explaining things from the physical world and the spiritual world. Because each world is seeing things different. Holy shit. I just thought of it like I heard the word a dictionary and I thought I was at the museum. And in there, I was looking for what are these, right? Well, this is well, anyways, uh, I couldn't have switched from my phone because I was looking on the bookshelf and there was a bunch of little books about that thick, and they were all about the same size, about that long. And I was looking at them, and all of a sudden I looked out, and it was this big ass book about that thick, and about that wide. Right. So I got down and I looked to see what it was, and it was a dictionary. So we have dictionaries, this freaking small thing, these are the words we're allowed to say, and they're putting this fucking thing. Telling me, all right, it's a little Ese otro era, pobrecito. It's like, okay, like, is that what they were referring to in the Bible when they spoke of fasting? Apparently. A little bit. Shit. So, breaking the fire, breaking the father of the pain. Yeah. That's what I heard. Muito triste, muito triste. For sure. Holy God. I know. Now, I've seen this. Okay. And I was looking at it, and it looked rather familiar to me. Like I had seen something similar to that before. And when I was looking at it, is that representing the mother and the two children? So one of the sons, son, that was like when I said about the other Peter and Jesus being half righteous. Yeah, and everyone said there's Judas, but it was then Peter. That's he said whatever we persuade. So then the Father denied him, but not her. So I don't have a question that we're doing with it as a goal. It's just like everyone feels kind of he's having a good swing on my swing. You know, looking through this stuff, it's, it's therapeutic for me because it helps me to see my life from a different perspective and how similar life has been and hasn't changed very much. It's just been set in new water. But you know, I kind of like it with the older buildings because it didn't just look like boxes with some triangles shapes on top of it to keep the people in. Seriously. Blackmail, tell them the truth. So that's why. So the secret, the reason why things are with now is because the person's being blackmailed. If you don't do this or give me this, then I'll tell your secret. No monetary thing is worth it. The truth is worth me. And the right people have a because sometimes maybe they already know something because their heart feels that it's to those people going through that is so important. So it's not something you take for granted. Because maybe it's just between you and the other person. And sometimes maybe the rest just don't need to know unless you're able to. Which is that part, you should be honest with everyone. And then you still have with the family. Yeah, and well, it's like being separated, one in a church, so the other one in the world. So I like the sound of birds. I don't enjoy the music like the paint. And I don't, it's not a tool. But I guess you could say I work harder working with the spirits than people per se, because working with the spirits is what's going to help with basically the world today. Well, this is emotional. Good, good. So, yes. It's like in my hands right now. It feels like you see when you have and you're holding one of those energy bulb lamps, and your hands are like this, and the electricity is going from your fingertips. But right now, it's like I have my hands on one of those, and it's like the electricity is like. It feels good because it's like it has that balance, that circuit. It's like cohesivo. Yeah, and then it just shifted as I said that. So buenísimo está eso de que se mira ahí. It's just, it's like it almost feels like sometimes it's like a magnet almost starting to repel, but it's like it comes around like this, comes around like this. Like that feels like a magnet. Like it's taking it around and around. It feels cool. It's like keep going. It does. It's like, holy shit, it's light. At least you can look the way I was. Yeah, she really was. Like I said, my channel's not for everyone. I bring a different perspective to things because I'm going to question it and look at them with regards to it and genealogy with regards to it. And I'm going to take pieces out in order to see my bigger picture. And when I say my bigger picture, it's I'm the one who has to work towards creating a reality that I want to see, the people that I want to have in my life, the places I want to be, things I want to do. Okay, it's that's my bigger picture. I I see like the spiritual, but I can't see what's like. I can see what's outside, and I can see what's inside, but I'm working on bringing it together. That makes sense. Because you're in the now, but you're still seeing different ways that things have or could come. That's the part where you start seeing people. But like I said, you'll find more truth. That's just truth. But you have to look at the different versions because each family has a different story because each family came from those same families and dispersed off. And then it was the programming of, you have to be this way or you can't be in this, much like a clan or a tribe, right? Saying, be proud of your heritage, but your heritage, not the wars, the teachings of survival. And it's where, you know, everyone was able to have things. And now people think it's normal that we should have to pay for everything, including food that already grows. We were coming back from Ottawa House and driving up the road. I was like, holy shit, man, I wouldn't work walking that road. Like up and down the road for my morning walks or evening walks or what have you, because everywhere, like every thing on the side of the road were apple trees. Everything grew naturally. You say Johnny Appleseed. Do you think Johnny Appleseed actually kept digging holes, or do you think he just started like sprinkling around because Mother Earth would do the rest? But they get rid of the seeds because it naturally grows. It's not foolishness. Foolishness. How do you think you get spurts of trees from seeds, right? Does anybody go in the forest and plant trees? Or do the seeds just naturally grow to the ground? Do they grow up or do they grow there? Because don't they grow both? But it was a beautiful walk of driving through there with all those apple trees. I wanted to stop a few times and cry myself. No, I want to tell somebody else's property. I want to, but hang. It was a hanging over the road. So did the government say that they're only like 30 feet or 15, 30 feet from the road? Maybe it's 15 feet. I don't know. Between 30 and 15. It's right up there. And no, it's not snow. And what those, when the dandelion turns and goes to seed, it's like those. So, okay, I'm hanging on. But that was my rabbit hole for today, and it was because of that verse, or because of what they were saying in there. So, take it as a grain of salt, take it out of the world, but, don't go crazy over it, because that's what it's like. To me, a true Bible study would be looking at the different perspectives and points of view of others, and then kind of trying to make it like working to make sense of it all instead of fighting against one another. Because people say, like, you want to be free, you want to be free. Well, what's going to set you free? The truth will set you free. Because that's the breaking the chains, it's breaking the fire, it's breaking the father of the wind. Is breaking the lies, the systems that keep you sick, ill, and many feeling unfulfilled. And when I say, because I felt that in there, unfulfilled meaning that, you always wanted to, but you never did it, but that was the part where it could have kept you from other possibilities. So that's the part where, thinking things through, and then there's overthinking where you actually talk your way out of it because you see it from what in that small period of time, the discomfort it may cause. Once you take that step out of your comfort zone, then you will begin to start seeing the same things with regards to helping. So, hey, I said you almost love light, many blessings, most importantly, very good help to anyone and everyone wants to learn to receive yourself. Watch all good day, cold, pray, support, be yourself, be your authentic self. Be true to yourself, be kind to yourself, true and kind to others, and nothing more strict. And I know it sounds like a monitor when you say it, but that's my form of mantra to myself. Because each time you step out of that comfort zone, or hearing something from a different perspective, fighting over it, then that's when you see, hold on, said my love. Significantly,